Good day, ladies and gentlemen. This is Sarel van Grenen, aka Mr. VG. Today is a fabulous day, my superheroes in training. In this video today, we are going to look at the importance of theory in problem solving. Now, I'm not always going to refer to theory as theory, but I'm going to refer to theory as understanding. In other words, do you understand the problems, the whole scenario, before you actually try and solve the problem? Now, I'm thinking back to about 2004, 2005. There was a movie called The Incredibles, where these superheroes came in and tried to save the day. They tried solving, and then people started suing them because they did things wrong. They caused people harm instead of actually helping them. They hurt people. People started suing them, and the whole universe turned against them, and they had to go into hiding because sometimes they don't understand. They didn't understand that specific scenario. Well, I want to help you prevent that from happening. I don't want you to end up in court being sued because maybe, just maybe, you say something, do something that offends someone. But for you to actually not end up in court, hopefully, you have to understand scenarios and what's happening behind the scenes before you can actually try and solve a scenario or solve a problem. So every single year I hear this from my students. Oh, so why do I have to know the theory? Is it really so important? So it only counts like 5 marks or 10 marks. Do I have to study it? Oh, sir, will the stuff be tested? If it's not tested, whatever, I'm not going to study this. But sir, my teachers from grade, 4 or 5 said, maths is not a study subject. So why do I have to know all this theory? Well, let me say this very clearly, boys and girls, pay attention. There's a much bigger picture that is in play here. A much bigger picture you might not understand. That, yes, it counts very, very, very few marks in the bigger scheme of things. But my aim is not just your final exam. My aim is the rest of your life. You need to understand problems and people before you try and solve their problems. Before you can try and save the world, you need to actually understand it. So how does it work? How does theory work, and why is it so important? Let me share this with you. Theory, problem solving, is like building your own crib. If you try and build a house, the end result, yes, you want to build that roof over your head. But before you can put a roof on your head, there's a lot of things that need to happen. So maybe you want to build your crib nice and small, like that little snail, or even a tiny, like it can fit in a bottle. Or maybe, just maybe, you want to build your crib like that old ancient cave, like Batman. You want to hide away from the world. You don't want anybody to find your crib. Or maybe you feel colorful and you want to build it like those beautiful multicolored houses. Whoever you are, however you want to build your crib, you have to start from the bottom up. In other words, you have to start at the foundations before you can look at the big roof that's going to be over your head. So here we are going to have a look at, for the rest of this lesson, at least the next few minutes, we are going to have a look at what is the house of problem solving. I like to call it The house of reason. Ooh. For every house, it starts at a foundation. Then you build the walls, the windows, and the doors before you try and put on the roof. When looking at theory, the foundation of your house, of your problem-solving house, is about definitions and axioms. So let me first start with those big words. Definitions is what makes something what it is. It doesn't just describe it, it makes it what it is. Okay? Like you are a superhero because you are going to change the world. Now, an axiom is what you accept to be true. Now, an axiom could be, you know what, the interior angles of a triangle add up to 180. The angles on a straight line add up to 180. Another axiom, if we talk about away from mathematics, an axiom could be anything that is accepted to be true, like colors. I can't prove to you red or blue or green. You just accept it. When talking about people, axioms is what I accept to be true. My religious beliefs, my cultural beliefs, the way I just do things just because I was raised that way. We need to be able to merge these axioms and understand that other people have got different axioms than me. That is important. Now, when we look at the walls, the windows, and the doors, those are the visible things. Those are the things when you're talking about people, it's what people do, how people do it. It's also looking at all of those visible things like theorems, meaning statements that actually are proven. Properties. So in other words, what describes someone. Formulas, like the quadratic formula, like Newton's formulas, Newton's laws of motion. All of those things are formulas. Then we get to conjecturing, which is where we try and predict the future by looking at what happened in the past. That sounds kind of weird, but we do that every day. I mean, you go and hang out with your buddies, the same buddies every break time, because they've treated you well in the past. If today they start treating you badly, well, then you're going to make a conjecture that, whoa, I'm not going to sit with them tomorrow. I'm going to sit with another bunch of people. That's conjecturing, data handling, and statistics. Now, once that house of yours is built strong, meaning you've studied your theorems, your properties, your formulas, and you're good with conjecturing, then we get to the roof of the house, which is reasoning and problem solving. Why, again, do we need to know all of this? Yes, to build the house, so I get you. But let me make it practical. Let's say Batman went into battle and, he's putting on his belt, his tool belt with all of his gadgets and stuff. And then he grabs for the first thing and he wants to throw a star, but he forgot to put the stars in. Oh my goodness. Or he wants, Spider-Man wants to shoot out a, spider web, but oh man, he forgot to put in new cartridges. Well, that's how you are without theory. Theory fills your tool belt. It fills your toolbox. I hope that when you get past this, you will get a very strong urgency to put as many tools in your toolbox, to study, why do things happen and how do things happen and how do things fit into each other. But also secondly, ladies and gents, it not just fills your tool belt, but it organizes your tool belt. What does it help if Batman, he wants to throw, one of those awesome little Batman tools at someone, and then when he looks at his belt where the tools are supposed to be, but he finds, a stick. Or, Batman, Spider-Man wants to shoot, his spider web, but when he presses the button, the wrong thing happens. Well, then he loses the fight. Imagine if Captain America is grabbing for his shield, and as he grabs for his shield, he doesn't find the shield, but he finds a rose. I don't know why he would have a rose, but imagine that. The whole battle would be lost. All because his tool belt, his toolbox is not organized. Now that's what happens in mathematics and in physical sciences. A lot of you guys, your toolbox is so empty, if I ask you about, Newton's laws of motions, you kind of go, so, and is that the one with the F or the V or is it Q's in there maybe? You don't have any tools in your toolbox. What about organizing your toolbox? Ooh, here we've got another problem, because a lot of you, when I ask you, for instance, about exponential equations, you look at me and go, okay, so I remember something about bases. Are we going to get the bases the same first, and then we're going to get the base alone? No, wait. You've got to learn to organize your toolbox. I remember a few years ago at a conference, a lecturer from the University of Stellenbosch came and talked to the group, and she said, one of the biggest reasons, or two of the biggest reasons why students fail first year varsity is because they haven't studied their theory enough, and their theory is not organized enough. In other words, a lot of kids they put away theory. No, so I'm not going to study that because they don't test it. Secondly, when they want to solve something, they look at their whole toolbox and try every single tool, and halfway through they give up because they don't know how to organize their toolbox. So my encouragement to you is, please, go and study your theorems. Go and do summaries. And if you don't know how to do it, just watch out. In one of our sessions on exam preparation later on with the mathematics, I promise you, grade 11 learners, I will do a video on how do I make mathematical summaries. Now that can just as well apply to physical sciences. Now let me ask this one last thing. What could go wrong without theory? Well, first of all, your house falls apart. Meaning when you put your pen on that paper and you're trying to answer the question, the teacher looks at you and goes, where do you get this thing that you're writing? And you just look at them and go, I don't know. What comes up in my mind, I put on the paper. In real life, if you don't understand people, it's very, very, very easy to offend people. Imagine when you're sitting with a big business deal one day and you go to shake the person's hand and it's a Japanese man, and he looks at you and goes, I'm sorry, the deal is off. You just offended me because you are trying to shake my hand instead of bowing to me. I'm sorry, the deal is off. Oh my goodness, you've just lost millions of dollars simply because you didn't understand him. You offended him. Now that means also you can get into a scenario where you're trying to solve the problem, but actually you're making it worse because you're offending people. You don't understand where it comes from. Ladies and gents, in the end, you create much bigger problems than you actually thought that you were going to have. So in short and sweet, you need to study your theory. You need to start by the definitions and build your way up. Go to the axioms, see which things do I accept to be true. Then you go to the theorems, the formulas, the conjectures, the properties. Write them down before you try and practice for your exams. Ladies and gents, go and change the world. But first, hit the pause button in your mind and go back and do your studies. This is Mr. VG signing out. Have an awesome and amazing, wonderful day. Look out for the next videos, which is about how do I apply problem solving in mathematics and in physical sciences. Keep well, ladies and gents. Cheers.